Hey guys, it is October 22nd, which means today Maverick is 9 months old, and I have been meaning to do more of these like update milestone sort of videos for Maverick, and I just hadn't gotten around to them. And I didn't think that kind of one of the first ones that I did, or at least one of the first few ones that I did, would be when we were in the hospital, but we've been in the hospital for about 3 weeks. But we are here to celebrate the fact that Maverick is 9 months old and talk a little bit about him. He is a very smiley, happy guy. He's always moving and getting into things, loves chewing on everything. He currently already has his bottom 2 teeth and is actually teething the top 4 in the front. And they are like so close to being out, so close. And actually the 2 outer ones have already kind of broken the gums, and the 2 front ones are so close. So just for sake of ease, and I've pulled up a list of 9-month milestones. So at the top it says crawling. 9 months is the average age babies start to crawl, and a 9-month-old not crawling is not a cause for concern. And that some babies jump straight to walking. So he actually does not crawl. He does get in the hands and knees position, and does like that little like rocking thing, but he does not actually crawl, or army crawl or anything like that. He has figured out how to, we call it penguin slide. We have tile all throughout our house, so he'll lay on his belly and use his hands to kind of push himself around and slide on his stomach. And then he turns around, and so he just kind of aims his feet where he wants to go and pushes himself backwards on the floor. Standing, he does do that. He loves to pull up and stand. That was actually something he started doing just about like the week before he got sick with Kawasaki disease. And he hasn't really been able to do it much in the hospital because when he's standing, the pulse ox reader on his toe goes crazy and thinks that he has no oxygen in his blood. And he's got a lot of wires because of the heart monitor and everything like that. So it's really tough for him to do that. But I try to let him stand as much as I can, basically until the alarm goes off, and then I set him back down. Sitting, he is really, really good at sitting, and he has great posture. Pincer grasp, they may begin picking up things with their pointer finger and thumb. He is not doing so much the pincer grasp yet. He still kind of grabs with his whole hand at this point. And right now he does favor one hand more than the other because for a while he had an IV, and so he wouldn't use that hand at all. It was just kind of like dead next to him for like the last several weeks. And right now he also has it's called a pick line in his arm, and so he doesn't use that arm as much as he uses the other arm. I think just because obviously you have that like IV, you have that catheter in there, and so and then there's also like pieces that hang down, so I think he's just not wanting to like move it very much, or that maybe it feels weird, or that it shifts the catheter and you can feel it kind of like, if you've ever had an IV, you know how it can feel having that like in your hand or in your arm. And so I think he just avoids the sensation of moving those things. Let's see, babbling. He does do some babbling, but he does not do it with any regularity, and he doesn't do it like with prompting. Like if I say babbling things to him, he doesn't necessarily like copy them. And we don't have names yet. Like we don't have, like, I'm not mama, and like we don't have dada or anything like that. But he does make those sounds, if that makes sense. So he makes the sounds, but he has not assigned us names from the sounds yet. But he does know, he's starting to figure out, like, he responds to his name when I call him about 3/4 of the time. And he actually does usually respond when I tell him no, when he's doing something. If I say no, usually he does stop if he hears me and realizes that I am speaking to him. And he does respond to up. If I come up to him and I say up, he lifts his hands up so that I can pick him up. But we are getting there as far as language goes. There are stuff listed here that say might be signs of a developmental delay that he does have. So, you know, we're going to obviously talk about that with the pediatrician when we get there. Our focus lately has been obviously the Kawasaki disease issue, but we will be discussing that with his pediatrician. he might just be a little bit on the, you know, the back end of normal, which is totally fine, or he might have a development delay. Either way is fine. Clarissa had some development delay stuff initially, and she caught up on a lot of those things. And she's also on the spectrum, and I know that, you know, the odds of having another child on the spectrum when you already have one are higher. So, I mean, if he ended up being on the spectrum, that's fine. We're just keeping an eye on all of his milestones, and gonna make sure that we just do whatever needs to be done. Let's see. Solid food. He eats a pretty wide variety. He loves like avocados and bananas and pancakes and things like that. Sleep. Typically sleep 14 to 15 hours a day, it says. It says 11 of those hours should be at night. He does not sleep through the night. He was almost sleeping through the night before he got sick. He would get up once still in the middle. And that was fine with me. That didn't really bother me. But then we ended up in the hospital, and so then they're coming in. Initially, they were coming in like every hour to 2 hours because he had such a high fever that they needed to keep an eye on. And so they were really, really watching him closely. So they were in and out a lot. And he was on IV fluids and medications and all those types of things that they really needed to pay attention to. And then later, it kind of backed off a little bit, but they were still coming in several times a night and waking him up. So, I mean, I'm recording this. It's 4:25. He's been up for almost an hour at this point. So his sleep schedule is bonkers right now because they have to come in and do vitals throughout the night, and all that kind of stuff. Even though now he's like almost ready to go home, he's still sick. Let me clarify that. He's still sick, but he's well enough to go home. And so they've backed it off to only coming in about twice a night, but he's still waking up at all wonky times. Huh, Mr. Man? Yeah. So I think it's going to take us a little bit of time to get him back on a good sleep schedule. And then the other issue too is that in the hospital he refused to sleep in the crib. So for the last 3 weeks he's been pretty much only sleeping on me. So hopefully we will be able to get him back in his bed and crib. We went home temporarily for a little bit there a couple of weeks ago, and he was fine going back into his crib and the pack and play and stuff for sleeping. So I'm hoping that we will still be able to transition him right back when we get home. And that he'll be comfortable, but he just never ever liked the cribs here at the hospital. I don't know if they just scare him or what it is, but every time we would try to put him in one, he would just cry. So they eventually gave up and just let him sleep on me, which is why we actually have the bed, because they brought the bed so that I could sleep in the bed with Maverick, because he wouldn't sleep in the thing. So they did that. Yeah, he's doing pretty well at this point. So at this point he's doing pretty well. He got his first flu shot because he has to have 2, and then there's going to be some delay in his vaccines because with Kawasaki, some of the treatment that he has to do for that, it actually will delay his ability to get several vaccines for a year. He can't do any live vaccines for a year, and I know vaccines are a hot topic, so I don't want to get into them. Like, I don't want to talk about them in the comments or anything. I don't want to hear any like negativity or fighting about it, either at me or with each other, because Kawasaki disease is pretty rare. I just want to put that out there, something that, you know, I wouldn't have known if my son didn't have it, is that along with the treatment of Kawasaki disease means delaying any live vaccines. So we're talking like chickenpox, measles, those types of things. He can't get those vaccines for a year. So I'm just looking forward to transitioning back home and getting things going with getting him back on a good schedule, getting him sleeping well, getting him sleeping in his own bed, because I would really like to, you know, have my own bed and have my own space. I'm a little bit touched out at this point, just from, you know, holding him pretty much all of the time. And I know the hospitals are scary and he hasn't been feeling well. And so I've been letting him pretty much be on me and snuggling and holding him as much as he wants, just as like to comfort him and to make him as comfortable in this really scary situation for him as possible, because he doesn't understand what's happening. But it's going to be interesting transitioning back home and trying to get on a normal schedule, as well as getting him all his medications, because when we transition home, he's going to be on a couple oral medications, as well as getting 3 injections a day. So we'll have to work that into our new daily schedule. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So as far as him being 9 months old, he is doing well. I really have enjoyed getting to see his little personality come out. He's such a sweet little guy, and he's such a little snuggler, and he's kind of a mama's boy, and I am not even mad about it. But I am just so happy with him. He is so sweet. There he is over there, chewing on the block. Yeah. Yeah, hi Maverick. You're 9 months old today. Yeah. Hi, sweetie. He is like, all of this stuff was actually all nice and in bags, and he has like destroyed it while I was recording. He has made a huge mess. Yeah, you made a big mess. Yeah, did you dump everything out? Did you do that? Alright. Okay, bye-bye.